and talk about
Hello and welcome to the Albion Obsessed podcast. You join us on the back of another late showing and comeback at the Amex against the champions, no less. We've got a habit of giving people a guard of honour and then showing them no respect on the pitch. 3-2 against Manchester City comes to mind. Let's see who we've got on the podcast today. We welcome our good friend, Curtis Friend. How are you?
I am fantastic, Joseph. Thank you for having me. Looking forward to chatting about the game yesterday.
Good man. And we also welcomed all the way from the US of A. I don't know if he's frozen because he looks frozen on my screen. Dagan, are you with us?
little laggy, but I think I'm here. We're going to work through it.
Let's hope the American internet sorts itself out. I know that they're very, very far behind the UK, so hopefully that comes up quicker. And we also welcome Andrew back to the show. Andrew, I saw your face after that winner went in. Have you come down from it yet?
I think so. It took a long time yesterday to try and adjust to that last minute steal of what we did. But yeah, it's looking hopeful.
Yeah, exactly. It is looking hopeful indeed. Let's have a look in the chat as well. We welcome Doom to the chat. Brian Gruder was fantastic. Yes, he was. We've got a whole segment talking about our wonderful German under-21 later on. Rodders, hello lads. Great to see Dagan again. It looks different without his beard. Dagan, grow your beard back by popular demand. Michael Webster, good evening to you. Doom, good to see Dagan back again. Dagan, you got so many fans. And Phil, good evening all. That was an entertaining game last night. It certainly was a very entertaining game last night. We're going to start today by talking a little bit about news that may or may not happen. We've had various sources confirming it's not a done deal. Some say it is, but Olivier Buscaglia apparently is close to joining the Albion. Somebody that we were pursuing last summer for an £8.5 million deal, Curtis. Looks as though, not confirmed yet, but looks as though we might be getting our man for free. It's great business for us, isn't it?
Very, very shrewd piece of business from the club. He seems like a really exciting prospect. He has some areas to improve on, but I think being thrown into the Premier League, I think that will do a play like that wonders.
Yeah, exactly that. Dagan, I know you've seen some news that's countering the argument of it could be a done deal, but I think there's quite a decent source that says that he's close to signing a new deal. What do you make of it, and do you think we'll get our man?
We're talking about Buscaglia, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Elfreak has been sort of the preeminent source on him over the last 12 months, and is saying the deal isn't done according to management. I'm not sure if that my understanding is that's player management is reporting the deal isn't 100% done yet. Not to say it won't be, but just not done yet. Saying the English sources are kind of getting out ahead of their skis here, so time will tell, but hopefully it is a done deal. It's a player that we've liked. It's a player who's versatile, certainly could play, left back in a 3 or left center back in a 3. Could probably push forward, good ball carrying. He's a little undersized for a center back in the Premier League, slight of build and about 5'11", so that worries me a bit. May mean our friend Cashin is due for a loan. It'll be interesting to see. I just can't imagine we have room for that many left-footed players back there. Maybe Purvis on the way out, maybe Igor on the way out. It'll be interesting to see. We expect Lamptey's contract is up. So curious if Buscaglia is in fact in. I know I was among those who, jumped on the the news this morning, but we'll see if we get confirmation probably in the next 24, 48 hours.
Romano 33 seconds ago said it was a done deal. So
oh, look at that.
Bomber.
So it's what I mean. It's just sort of like it's hard to. It's whoever you trust source wise.
Yeah.
Andrew, what do you make of us making another defensive signing? I think for me it maybe leans towards that he might be playing on the left side of a back three next year. Do you think that we could see a tactical change for Fabian with options coming in for him?
I think whatever we do, I think always trust the club in what they do and what their business. They know exactly what they're doing, and if they've clearly seen something in him that interests them, so why not? If we can get it over the line and get him into the club, we can only progress with him, and he will only become a better player if he's not already one as it stands. So just got to see what the club do and see if he comes in.
Yeah, exactly that. It's certainly a thing of waiting and see. Curtis says my audio was funky. Is my audio better now, Curtis? Can't hear you, mate. You're on mute.
It's fine now. It's just your
Okay.
audio dipped out a bit when you were asking Andrew a question. So.
It's probably because I touched the microphone. I need to stop doing that. Keep my hands to myself and all that. Anyway, sorry. It's a PG show. Very bad, Joe. How dare you? Let's not beat around the bush much longer. Let's talk about the game then. Curtis will start as we always do with the starting lineup. Simon Adingra and Brian Gruder come in to replace an injured Tarek Lamptey. Imagine my shock. And Matt O'Reilly, who was rotated to the bench. I think it was probably a start well earned for Brian Gruder, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we've just started to see the player that was promised to us. You know, he's got so much potential, and it's really been shown in these last two performances. And I just think he's going to really kick on next season, and it's a really exciting.
Yeah, exactly that. Really exciting piece of business that he's had to bide his time, isn't he, Dagan, Brian Gruder, and he's come in these last couple of games and seems to be taking his chance really well.
Yeah, it's hard to argue with his results. What, 4 assists, or 3 or 4 assists in the past few games? Just he's electric, right? Anybody who's following his work at Mainz, yeah, the German pronunciation eludes me. But nonetheless, I mean, he's considered one of the top young talents in Germany. He's showing why, right? I mean, he came in sort of banged up, maybe wasn't quite ready. Clearly, he's getting physically stronger as the season has gone on. His health has returned, and he's showing himself to be dynamic. Patience, folks. To me, it's just another example of patience. Oh, we wasted, X amount on this guy. He's 20 years old. Just take a breath. Let him get some games under his feet. These guys are talented. We're signing them because they're talented, especially the young ones. I tend to believe in our youth recruitment as much as anything. So excited for him. Glad he's getting the chance. He is a guy who seems to bring a João Pedro-like swagger and confidence. And we're going to need that if João Pedro is in fact on the move. Because Jorginho is all good vibes and happy and smile. We need somebody with a little edge, and it might be Gruda that brings that.
Yeah, exactly that. Andrew, people in the chat talking about Mats Wiefer, who has made another appearance at right back. And I thought he did pretty well there yesterday, and has done when called upon in that position. Do you think that could be a new sort of position that we could find Mats Wiefer in that area a little bit more next season?
I thought he'd done incredibly well yesterday, considering, his, and I think putting him into those type of positions, then his confidence will only grow. And he looked fairly comfortable. He was certainly getting involved with the game, making some really decent challenges, putting some decent balls across. It looked like he was enjoying himself. And, from what I've been hearing, through the lines and stuff, he's he's building his confidence, and he's certainly and the manager seems to be happy with him. So that can only be good for him, be good for the club, and be good for the manager.
Yeah, exactly that. Curtis, will stay on the subject of right backs. Tarek Lamptey, another injury. It looks as though he hasn't yet signed a contract extension. Do you think this definitely spells the end for Tarek's time on the South Coast?
Unfortunately, I think there's a possibility that he moves on. Yeah, I love the guy. I mean, if he wasn't so injury prone, he could be so good for us. I mean, he has these like fantastic spells of like 3 or 4 really good games, and he gets injured, or he'll like make a silly mistake and get like a red card or a pen or something. But I just think he has so much talent, but unfortunately his body holds him back ever since that first big injury he had with us. I just think it's such a huge shame. I think what could have been with him, but he's such a great guy, and I don't doubt that wherever he goes, he'll be great. He will be great.
I think we have news of a goal. There you
Quest for Europe update. So you're going to see my eyes looking above my screen. I have the City Bournemouth game on in front of me. Marmouche goal for City.
So
not
only do you have a live podcast today, you also have a live match report as we go.
There's been a goal, but for who, Cammy?
There's been a red card, I'm hearing. No. Yeah, Michael saying.
Oh my gosh, this is a worldie.
That is top bids.
See, this is...
Thanks, Kennedy.
We've even got a sideline reporter in Kennedy over there, so that's great. Dagan, away from the City game, we'll talk about Brighton.
He's just catching his nose, bear with him.
I know. That's
a league-wide goal of the season candidate right there.
Yeah, someone just said it's an CISO type goal. Dagan, I want you to talk about Adam Webster, please. 2 starts since he come back from injury. I know you've not been his biggest fan, but what a redemption arc.
It is a tremendous redemption arc. I'm just typing a response to Phil. I thought the left side of defense was shaky, and when gaps appeared yesterday, that's usually where they were. Though Gakpo early presented a little trouble for our duo on the right as well. Webster has been better. I thought he was less convincing yesterday than perhaps in some others. I think he's still finding his feet again after a layoff. But that middle stretch where we, won 6 games, where he featured in most of those, if not all of those, he was really sensational. And, I was one who was critical of Webster, so I have to eat my words there. He's shown at his best he can be at the level that we need him to be. For me, consistency is still a question for him. But, some players develop into the full version of themselves a little later. And if we're going to see that from him, 9 games out of 10, then that's a player who we wouldn't hesitate to have out there because he is a talent, and he's good on the ball. And so, yeah. But I thought he and JP both yesterday had a few rash challenges that were ill-advised, that Liverpool, perhaps, having counted their season finished, did not take the tackle, just tried to get out of the way. But yeah. Webster has been solid, and we're not missing Dunk in the way that we maybe would think that we would have, or would have thought we would have at the start of the season.
Yeah, exactly that. And we'll talk a little bit more later about how we rode our luck a little bit in the second half, because this game could have been very different had a certain Mo Salah had his shooting boots on. But Andrew, I want you to touch on Adam Webster as well, somebody that's watched his downfall, somebody that's watched his redemption from inside the stadium. What have you made of Webby's professionalism next to, and above anything else, really? Just his way of going about how he operates.
Opportunity to play, he becomes incredibly, he's watching him in front of me yesterday, he had quite a bit of he wanted to go forward. He did, and he's quite good at I don't know. He just, when he's not injured, he seems to have something about him that he loves playing the game. He absolutely loves it, and he just loves getting involved. Doesn't matter what part of the pitch he's on. He just loves getting involved, and he's another positive person going into each game when he gets a chance to play. And just the way he's just watching him game by game, a massive improvement.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely huge. Curtis, the game didn't start in the best way, really. I mean, I think we looked up for it from minute one, but the opening goal, Liverpool broke down our left-hand side. Adingra gave up tracking Conor Bradley, who gets in behind and squares it to Elliott for a simple finish. What did you make of the goal? And do you think we were missing that sort of defensive output that Mitoma brings, and Adingra doesn't quite get up to that level? I don't want to bash Adingra because I'm probably his harshest critic, and I don't want to be seen as having an agenda.
You don't want to do that, as everyone on Twitter bashes Adingra anyway, so I wouldn't worry about it. I think, unfortunately, it was a really, really well worked goal from Liverpool, like a lovely goal. In fact, I watched it and went, fair, that's just really nice and really kind of bad from us from a defensive standpoint. But I do agree with what you said. Like, you usually have someone like Mitoma that drops back and gets in there with the defensive capability. So, yeah, maybe we definitely missed him from the start. But I think his integration later on, I just think, did us more favours to have him later. So, but you're right. I think it was definitely a poor goal to concede so early on.
Yeah, definitely. Michael saying Adingra had a better game yesterday. Yeah, I definitely think he reacted well to that moment, and I think he was driving the ball up quite well when he was trying to beat his man and trying to do everything he could to get the ball in. And I can't rate his work rate. He does work hard going forwards, and I think for me the thing with Adingra is he's just so frustrating, and that he can create moments of magic. So craving that consistency from him, I think, is the thing that frustrates me the most. Dagan, what did you make of our sort of reaction to the setback? I thought we looked pretty okay after their goal.
Yeah, we looked up for it. And to me, that's, if I have one big takeaway under Fabian Hurzeler, it's that when we take a punch in the mouth, we don't go down. It's been consistent all year. We'll go behind, and then we look like we wake up. Now, obviously, you don't want to concede first, right? But that used to be a death knell for us. That meant we're going to lose 3-0. We're going to lose 4-0. Our heads are going to hang. This group has not done that. I think we're in the top 3 for points from behind on the season. And those are usually the top teams, right? That are capable of that, except, some that are so good that they never go behind. But, I said to you this morning, Joe, we were on a call, right? Those of you who go to home games at the Amex have seen only 3 losses in the Premier League this year. I know there are 8, probably in part very disappointing draws, but only 3 losses is something to really be proud of. And I think that's a testimony to, our fighting spirit. Yeah, we've taken our foot off the gas a couple of times and blown leads, but you can't be critical of, giving leads away if you're not equally excited about coming from behind, and especially against, some top competition, both City and Liverpool rallying from deficits to win.
Yeah, exactly that. I love how you omitted to mention Spurs as well. I'll come back against them because they're not a top team. I love that. I'm just going to quickly reference a comment from Doom in the chat saying, could we spare some minutes to talk about Harry Howe and Jack Hinshelwood? I cried tears of joy when they got the winner, he says. But yes, we will definitely be talking about the introduction of Harry Howe and the fantastic winner from Jack Hinshelwood in a little while. Andrew, the goal came from a beautiful pass from Brian Gruder. Again, the center of everything good that we were doing, really. Dagan mentioned to me earlier about how whether it was him or Fabian Hurzeler that moved him into areas where he could find the space to drive forwards. A beautiful ball through to Yasin Iyari. A really well taken goal, wasn't it, Andrew?
It was. We're right. I'm almost right behind it, and yeah, the way he's wrapped his foot around that and taken it down so well, and yet he's got a player on him as well, and the player's trying to do everything possible for Liverpool to try and prevent it, but he's just wrapped his foot around it, and it's just quality. He's come into himself, He's got into this thing now of scoring goals, which is really, really good for us as a team. And if he can get more, then brilliant. But he adds a lot of quality to the team itself, and just so pleased for him that he's managing to get these small little chances, and they're turning into goals and or big chances. And you can see when he doesn't score the frustration on him, because it annoys him. So, yeah, really pleased with him. And I just hope he can continue and get even more.
Yeah, exactly that. Joanna referencing as well that we've even got Jorginho to come back into the side, Curtis, once he's back from his injury. We saw Georgie Can again yesterday. That filled my heart with so much joy. Doom saying that KDB has missed a sitter. Well, KDB can go away to Syria for all I care. I mean, just staying on Yasin Iyari, Curtis. Sorry, Dagan. Staying on Yasin Iyari, Andrew mentions he's bringing goals into his game now. What do you make of his improvement as a player? I think a lot of fans were critical of him earlier on in the season, but he's really coming into his own, isn't he? And finding space and creating chances.
I think it's quite clear that Hurzeler really rates him. The fact he's been given so many minutes and so many chances. It's almost a shame that he's coming into form at just the end of the season, But I think again it's exciting to see what he can bring into the new season. I think he's shown a lot more confidence now, a lot more like cohesion with the team, and I just think he's a really young, exciting prospect. And it's great. We have so many really good, hungry players who are going to really kick on in this new season. It's exciting. Really is exciting.
Now let's go to Dagan, who is at the Etihad Stadium for us, reporting live. And there's been a miss, Dagan Rowe.
Oh, goodness gracious. Point blank. I mean, point blank, and just skied it upward into the post. What do you think, Ken?
That was terrible.
Our live reporter, Kennedy says terrible.
That's bad.
Kennedy, you make that 9 out of 10? 10 out of 10?
I can make that movie,
yeah. Yeah, it was as bad as Marmoush's was good. Yeah, De Bruyne is still beside himself. He's still grabbing his head.
Well,
Marmoush with a beautiful ball to him. Oh my gosh. He just tried to do way too much. I mean, all he has to do is touch it. He just, it took a little hop and came off top of his foot. Oh,
what we are seeing here is an American in bamboozlement, ladies and gentlemen. He just can't deal with this.
It's like a zoo animal you guys are watching live right now. American watch the football.
I know, right? How crazy. Staying on the game, Curtis. I think we were probably good value for going in at 1-0 at half time, but it wasn't to be. A quick free kick meant that Szoboszlai found a little bit of space over Bart, and we went in 2-1 down. A bit of a blow, wasn't it, Curtis? So 5 seconds away from the halftime whistle, I think.
Yeah, it was disappointing. It felt like we were really pushing. It felt like we were maybe going to equalise just beforehand, but wasn't to be, and it was just the most. It felt like a really almost like an accidental goal, but it was a really nice goal. Again, I can't really say much about it. I'm glad it didn't really dampen our spirits coming into the second half.
Yeah, exactly that. Andrew, it was quite, annoying to concede that late on in the half. Fabian Hurzeler has spoken so much about game management towards the end of the game. Do you think there needs to be an element of that towards the end of a halftime whistle when you're 1-1 against the champions?
Yeah, I think so. I think he's, he really, you could see that the lack of defending for that, for that goal was very much, we were totally at fault for it. Of course we were. It can't have, it was almost goalkeeper's goalkeeper's in the wrong place, or he's seen the keeper off the, there were so many factors in it, and it's just unfortunate that it's gone over him. And it's just kind of, whether you blame the keeper for it, whether you blame the defenders for it, whichever way you look at it, we didn't defend it, and we should have done.
Yep, exactly that. I've seen a few mentions of the P word in the comments. Can we just relax, guys? We don't need to be mentioning them. We really it's disgraceful after this weekend. So no more mention of the P word. I think you're right, Andrew. It's one of those things where you would expect to see Bart's hands go up and claim that cross, and it just wasn't to be. So Botslois found him off the line. Dagan, in the second half, it really seemed to open up a little bit, didn't it? I think it was Hurzeler who referenced it like a basketball match, just end to end, end to end, end to end. And Liverpool had the chance to take the lead through Mo Salah, who, as you've referenced in the comments, had a little bit of pressure from behind. Could have been very different, couldn't it, Dagan?
Yeah, indeed. Right. If they get a third there, things would certainly have looked bleak. There were 25 shots between the two teams in the second half. So there's your up and down blistering pace. To our credit, we had 8 on target to their 2. So that was, putting shots on frame can be a big difference maker. First half, we had 11 total shots, 4 on target. So we outshot them and hit them on target in both halves. It's like it really was a game where I feel like we deserved the result. Wouldn't be the first time this year when we said we deserved the result but didn't get it. So nice to have such an occasion where it felt like we dominated. It felt like we took control, that we dictated both with our pressure out of possession and with our directness. The one thing that continues to stand out for me is how direct we are. And it's frustrating when we pull the ball back, because I still think we do it more than I would like. And it reminds me of De Zerbi ball, hyper super possession. But we're just so much more direct and threatening on the counter, and I think that really plays to our strengths because we have many guys who can
no tactics, though, Dagan. No tactics.
It's all accident, happy accidents. Bob Ross is painting wins for Brighton. There are tactics. They are maybe a little less obvious to decipher. But yeah, our use of runs, are occupying the edge of the box, creating space at the top of the box. That there's a reason we find ourselves in acres of space there, and it's because of overloads. It's because of getting so many bodies forward. That does make us vulnerable on the counter. It does force our center backs into potentially rash decisions where they have to win the ball or there's going to be a breakaway the other way. But that is the risk reward of this style of football.
Yeah, exactly that. Curtis, as I mentioned, end to end, we had our chance. Came from a lovely bit of build up. Gruder with a lovely back heel into Danny Welbeck, who seemed to lose his footing a little bit before he struck the ball, and it ended up going straight at Alisson. Was it hands and head moment like Dagan just down there when you didn't see Welbeck find the back of the net there?
Oh yeah, it was so frustrating. I mean, he looked really up for it yesterday. I thought Welbeck. I think I saw some stick aimed at him, but he can only put away the chances that he's given. But yeah, that was a really good chance, and luckily enough, Mitoma was there to absolutely hammer that in. How can you bend your leg that way? I don't understand how that's possible. I can't do that. But luckily enough, he can, and he got an amazing goal, and that's 10 for him now. I think he's our third player on 10 this season too, which is just incredible. Really good.
And that's actually the first time that has happened in our top flight history, to have 3 players on 10 plus goals. Andrew, let's talk about it. The Kaoru Mitoma introduction, the way that it meant that Connor Bradley was pegged back a little bit more and couldn't sort of operate further up the pitch, and just his technical ability, as Curtis mentioned, the touch to stop it from going out of play, and then the goal. He's going to be, if he does leave, completely irreplaceable, isn't he?
There's not many words you can say about Mitoma. He's just absolute quality. The way he just, I actually get I get quite down when he doesn't start, because of his qualities, and when he does come on as a sub, the impact he can have, and that showed yesterday. The touch, just not just for the goal, the way he brings down, it just kind of. I know he's done a degree in this in what he does, but that is just unbelievable. Witnessing what he did before that goal was just, and he teases the defense, he teases the midfield, and it's like, try and stop me, try and catch me if you can, because if I can go past you, I will do, and I will cause you a lot of hassle if I can go past you. And yeah, just total class, total quality. I really, really hope he doesn't disappear from this club, because that would be one player that we would honestly miss, whether he's on the subs bench or whether he starts.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it's just
exactly that. It's hard to think about, but the thing is, I think he wants that dream of playing in the Champions League, and he's not getting any younger. It was his birthday today, actually, so happy birthday to Kaoru Mitoma. What a way to celebrate. Dagan, talk to us about Kaoru Mitoma. I think there's not many players in the Premier League that when they receive the ball, it gets you off your seat. Yeah,
Sublime, right? I mean, just a sublime touch on the side. What I started thinking about is this little glimpse of, 30 minutes, 25 to 30 minutes of Mitoma. It's what I imagine he'll be like late in his career. He's so shifty and quick that even when his electric pace is gone, that the tight space ability, I think, is still going to be there. And I think he's going to be an exciting and fun player to watch for a long time. I hope it's in a Brighton shirt. I hope we find a way to keep this guy around forever, because he changes the game. And I think, even if we have other players and have to rotate him, he's going to be effective. And yeah, I would hate to see him go. I know I'm biased. I think we're right on the cusp of getting to the level that he would want. And my hope is that he is the type of player, is the type of person who would want to be the one to take us there rather than going to find that somewhere else. And I think, it's going to take a special group of players who do it, but there is going to be a group of players that take Brighton to their first trophy, probably to Champions League eventually. These things are going to happen, and someone's going to be among that group. And I think it's going to be special when it's, maybe it won't be until the Harry Howells and Jack Hinchellwoods of the world have come through the academy and, are leading us there themselves. But the hope is right that some of these veterans will stay, and will be part of the sort of change in culture that we've seen that has taken us from we're surviving, we're staying up, to now we're sort of on this cusp of, threatening for Europe year in, year out around the top 10. Yeah. Hope he stays.
Can we just go live to Dagan Rowe at the Etihad Stadium, because I believe Manchester City are about to take a 2-0 lead in America.
I'm watching it live right now. It's still 1-0.
2-0
cut
in
down.
the comments.
Bernardo Silva. Goal. 2-0. Let's
Get
go.
in there.
Let's
Love
go.
that. Curtis, let's stay on the Kaoru Mitoma love train. He's been a fantastic servant to this football club, and of course, we hope he stays with us. Talk to me about Kaoru Mitoma, because I never tire of hearing just how good he is. I never tire of watching him. So, what has been Curtis's favourite Kaoru Mitoma moments?
Oh wow. I think my favourite Kaoru Mitoma moment might be goal against Liverpool in the cup. I think it's one of my absolute favourites. I think, but there are so many I could mention. But yeah, he's so important. He's so important. I think we could try and do anything we can to keep a hold of him. But I agree with what you were saying about how, you know, he clearly wants to achieve something, and I mean, it would be nice if he could do that with us. But also, as you say, not getting any younger, so the decision is his ultimately. But for me, the overriding memory is that FA Cup goal. It's just one of my favourite goals he's scored for us.
Yeah, exactly that. We've just had as well a report sent through to us by Philip, one of our lovely Australian correspondents, saying that Andy Naylor has confirmed that the reason João Pedro missed the game yesterday was because of a training ground altercation with teammate Jean-Paul Van Hecke. Andrew, let's quickly react to that news. I think the frustrations of João Pedro have boiled over a little bit this season. You know, he got the red card at Brentford, and now there's been an altercation at the training ground with a teammate. Do you think he's somebody that we want to keep around if he's like that? Are you very much of the opinion that it should be and apologies for swearing, I hope there's no kids watching. Dagan, is Kennedy there? I don't want to swear.
I don't think she is.
Okay, and no dickhead policy. So what do you make of that, Andrew?
Oh God, the problem is we don't know what's happened, so it's really difficult to say. And I think we just need to kind of, whatever's happened within the inside of the team, the club, whatever argument has happened, I'm sure they will sort it out. They will get to the bottom of it, and so be it. And it's for the two players to sort it out with the support around them. And for whatever reason, it's happened. And I'm sure you wouldn't have known that by the way Van Hecke was playing yesterday, that there was any issues anywhere. But there again, he's not going to make it look obvious if there is something going on there. So, it's down to the club to deal with it, and hopefully they will sort it out, and all will be well.
Exactly that. And there is somebody, Jean-Paul Van Hecke, with an attitude of somebody that you want to take to the next level. Dagan, was there an offside in the build-up, or is it still 2-0 Man City? Have we lost him? I think he's frozen. Let it go. He's here now. Is it still 2-0? I saw some comments in there.
Yeah, still 2-0. Look, I want to speak to this because I've coached for a long time,
Yeah,
right?
cool.
Some of your best teams are teams where guys will get in a scrap. So my guess is how João Pedro handled it at the conclusion, maybe he stormed off, right, is probably more the issue than the altercation itself, would be my guess, right? Those two guys are heated. They run hot. They're competitive. You hope they have the maturity to not have it spill over on the pitch and end up in a red card. But look, JP has been there. We've seen it. The first time I saw a Brighton game, JP got sent off over the summer in a friendly against Chelsea, right? Like those guys are intense, and that's what makes them great. So you can't take that out of players. We don't know what happened. We weren't behind the scenes. It seems like he clearly erred in some way if he was, left out for personal reasons. But yeah, I know lots of people are deciding that João Pedro is, I think, less than a player than he has shown us to be. And there's a reason he's wanted by some of these other big clubs. I don't understand the like, like everyone is ultimately replaceable, but we have not had someone consistently produce the way that he has in my time as a fan. And as good as McAllister was as a penalty taker, and we feared his exit in that department as much as anything, João Pedro came in and more than made up for it. Big part of our best ever season and the success we did have in Europe. So I don't want him to leave and it to be good riddance to bad rubbish. I don't see it that way. Would hate for internal team conflict to be the result. Wow, that looked like a really bad tackle. Surprised that was only a yellow. Sorry. So I would say wait till we find out the details. Trossard, there's a comment from Phil. I don't know that Trossard had a disagreement with another player, but perhaps he did.
He had a disagreement with De Zerbi.
Yeah. And Mitoma was taking his spot at that time, as we may recall, and I think that was a frustration. He also had come back from a very disappointing World Cup, and I think was disappointed in the amount of time that he got there. So just reflecting back on that, I think that was a accumulation of factors for our friend Trossard. And I think maybe João Pedro was having a similar, few months. Wanted to carry us into Europe. Felt like that was maybe slipping away in that Brentford game. Lost his cool. And yeah, I mean, these guys, I know you think, oh, he's old. He's turned 23, but these are still young guys we're talking about.
Exactly that. Curtis, let's talk about happy things. The moment that we're all waiting to talk about, really. A certain Harry Howe makes his Premier League debut, which is an incredible thing for one, our academy, and two, the Hinshelwood and Howe family, as they Howe made his debut at the same time as Hinshelwood was introduced to the game. A lovely moment, wasn't it, Curtis?
Yeah, I mean, Harry Howe's been someone I've been watching in the academy for quite some time. And he's such an impressive prospect. And I was hoping at some point he would get some minutes because I know he's been on the bench for the last two, if I'm not mistaken. So to see him come on yesterday alongside Jack, his cousin, it was amazing. It was so amazing. And when I know we're going to talk about it, but when Jack scored his goal, I thought that was Harry at first. I about freaked. But still, that very small cameo we had of him yesterday, I think is so impressive because you could see by the way the team was playing with him. It didn't seem like he was uncomfortable in the position he was in. So I feel like I've just said this over and over again, but I'm just looking forward to seeing more from him in this next season, assuming he doesn't get loaned out, which wouldn't be the worst thing, maybe to the Championship or something. But I want to see more of him in a Brighton and Albion shirt for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Andrew, Fabian Hurzeler said after the game that it looked as though Harry Howe had been in and around the first team for 10 years, the way he's applied himself to first team training and getting the opportunity to make his Premier League debut. An incredible moment for our academy, isn't it, to have another player come through?
I think it's a sensational moment for the player, for the club, for the team. We seem to be able to get quality, and we look after them. We mentor them and stuff. And for him to be able to come in to the first team and be in amongst the first team players on the bench, I did wonder whether he was going to get an opportunity at some point to come on, and he did. He came on with Jack, and yes, to be honest with you, he didn't exactly shy away too much either. He was well and truly in amongst it. He came down the left side to me, and it just, he looked very comfortable on the ball, and I think having a full house as well made it even better for him because he's playing in front of a big crowd. And as time goes on, the more he gets, the more minutes he gets, I think he will improve massively. And I think he will just, considering that is literally his first opportunity to come on and play, against a Liverpool side as well. That's a big call from the manager to do that, even if it was only for, 10, 15, 20 minutes, something like that. I can't remember. But yeah, he looked very comfortable. And hopefully we'll see more of him. And he's certainly getting the support from the fans, and he's getting the support from the team, the club, and everybody surrounding him. So the support's there. It's brilliant.
Exactly that. And I think the most heartwarming moment for me was after a couple of really good spells that he had, that the whole of the Brighton crowd just started singing Harry, Harry, how, Harry, Harry, how. It's just absolutely fantastic for the young lad to make his debut against the champions, and to have such a positive impact on the game as well, Dagan. When you saw Harry Howe coming on at 2-2, did you think, that's a bold call from Hurzeler?
Well, I was unsurprised, if only because I felt like we needed to get Welbeck off, and I didn't know who else would come on for him among the subs we had. So I was unsurprised from that standpoint. I was excited, and I really thought it was the right move. It was a moment. If he was a defensive prospect, right, you maybe question that, because maybe he makes a back-breaking mistake. But when you put a young guy in a position like that where something great can happen, and you create a moment where against one of the best teams in the world, he's a part of a come-from-behind victory, that plants a seed in his mind as a part of his legacy at the club. Had he been the one to be on the end of that goal instead of Jack Hinshelwood, and not just the near post runner that created space for that goal to happen, how big does he, grow instantly? But yeah, I just think it was a great moment to forge a special bond between Howell and the fans. And that was something, Joe, I wanted to ask you about. The crowd, to hear it on television yesterday, sounded exceptionally loud throughout the match by Brighton standards. Can y'all talk about that? What was it like inside the Amex yesterday?
Yeah, definitely. I'll come to Andrew on this as well, because it seemed as though the events of the weekend, I really thought were going to dampen the spirits at the Amex. I really thought that we were going to see seas of empty seats and just everybody just giving up on the team a little bit, because the comments that I saw on social media were very much that. They were very much, what's the point? There's no point anymore. They've won the FA Cup. What else can we do about it? But I think people still cling on to that tiny little bit of hope. And when things are against Brighton and things are against Brighton fans, Andrew, you back me up on this. We don't say die. And I think that is the attitude of this football club from its very beginning. And, even 25, 26 years ago, there was the slimmest chance that we would stay in the league. And we did. So I think we thrive off of that sort of them against us sort of atmosphere. And Andrew, I'll come to you now. But it was electric from minute one, and it did not stop, did it?
No, it didn't. And I personally, it doesn't matter what team we're playing at home. The electric side of it's always going to be there. And I think sometimes there are obvious reasons why people can't go sometimes, but when you are there, the atmosphere is just the North Stand. It just kind of rocks anyway. But then you entice everybody else around you to do it. So it's almost like we're leading the whole stadium to get involved, because once we start, everybody starts. And it's the goals, even without the goals being there, we were still singing from 1 minute to the next. The loudness was just incredible. And it's just, when you're calling out the players' names and stuff, and they can hear you, but they're not going to react because they're focused on their game. But it makes it even worse. It makes it even more crazier when the goals start flowing in. And just that ground, I love it to bits. And this club, you can't not support them because they are just so wonderful and they do so much for the community as well.
Exactly that. Tom's spoken at the start of this season about Albion mojos, and I'll be honest, my Albion mojo has been pretty up and down this season. But as you say, Andrew, they've got a way of clawing you back in. You're never fully gone because your club's your club. You know, you care about it no matter what. But they've got their sneaky little way of pulling you back in and making you believe, as Dagan makes us believe all the time, that we're onto something really special. And I think the mentality of those lot up the road have gone and done it. It just further makes me believe that we can do it. If they can, geez, we can. Come on. We've seen enough from this football club to believe that we can win any game of football at any moment in time. So why the heck not? We are going to be joined very shortly by our Aussie correspondent, Phil, who was meant to be on at 8 o'clock, but he got his timings slightly wrong, and will be joining us to talk about the game a little bit. Let's talk about the goal, Curtis. Jack Hinshelwood, you mentioned you thought it was Harry Howell that tapped it in, but he makes a lovely sort of movement across the defender, drags them away from Hinshelwood, who's there to finish. Celebrations were halted slightly, but yeah, talk us through the goal.
I mean, yeah, I think what needs to be spoken about too is the assist from O'Reilly. That was a really, really lovely assist from him. He's also another player that's potentially been linked with a move, and I desperately hope he doesn't go anywhere because I love him and he's like terribly handsome and all that stuff too, which is apparently important. But I think that he's a great player. But to assist that goal, it was quite tight there too. And yeah, it took a lot of air out with the VAR check. But it was amazing when we got told, and then to know that Jack Hinshelwood's got a little one on the way, which is also really nice. Well done to him. Another Hinshelwood. Sign
him or her up right now.
Preemptively. Yeah. But I just think it was a really, really important moment. A huge goal, and just so happy for one of our own. Really, really, really happy.
Yeah.
Oh, and also a stat we've not mentioned. I think we've now beat the Big Six at home every time we've played them, or something like that. Wasn't that a stat I saw? Each of the Big Six.
So this season we're unbeaten against the Big Six at home. But
5 wins and drew to Arsenal. 5 wins and drew to Arsenal.
That's decent. So, you know, people mentioned the Ipswich, the Southampton, the Leicester, the Everton, the Palace, you know. Oh, why did I say that disgusting one? Sorry, you can slap me later. Dagan, what on earth were they checking? I know it was tight. It was. But why, when they've got semi-automated offsides, did it still feel like it took? I don't know if it's because you're in the stadium and you don't know what's going on, but it felt like it was forever.
It did. Yeah, I went out and watched the game yesterday, and had converted a City fan to a Brighton fan. Not really. He was happy to root for us instead of Liverpool. But as I'm watching, like, our initial response was like, "Oh, I think he's on," and then we're just waiting forever. And I looked over and I was like, "I'm going to apologize in advance because if this goal is good, you're getting hugged." I said you're getting hugged by a stranger. He was like, "I don't think we're strangers at this point," because we'd watched the game together. It was fun. But yeah, it was. Yeah, it seemed on. How it's semi-automated and still can take that long, I don't understand. It seemed pretty clear. I guess they're still learning to use the technology. It's at least better technology. But yeah, it was frustrating. It seemed from very early on that it was going to be good, and I'm just glad it was. Oh my gosh.
Exactly that.
It was a lot better. There's Phil.
Look who we've been joined by, our Aussie correspondent. You've joined at the perfect time, Phil, because we are talking about Jack Hinshelwood, the Hinch Pin, as you named him. First of all, what did you make of the game as it went on? And yeah, welcome to the show. I hope your morning in Australia has been lovely.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, I found out about 10 minutes ago that I'd completely got my timings wrong. So that was a good start. Late season, the timings just are not good, sadly. I always wanted to come on that awards show that you guys do, but I would have had to get up at like 4 a.m. to actually get on there. Kickoff was 5 a.m. yesterday morning, so that was palatable. And yeah, I had an absolute blast. Watching that game. That was unreal. No, I wasn't at the pub drinking a brown ale like Dagan had the pleasure of doing yesterday, but I was sipping on a nice warm coffee as I watched the Brighton boys rip in. It was unreal. It could well go, sort of end up being one of those more memorable moments of the season. We'll have to wait and see how it all, how the dust settles on things. But we saw some outstanding individual performances from young guys, obviously, of course, the Harry Howe thing. There were lots of things that we can hang our hat on from yesterday's game.
Exactly that, and the importance of Jack Hinshelwood as well. He's so versatile, isn't he, Phil? And found himself sort of playing in a number 10 role yesterday, and then getting another goal. Talk to us about the Hinch pin, as you call them.
Yeah, I think his utility value probably almost takes away from his quality, because we value him because of how many different positions he can play, but he's just a ridiculously good footballer at the end of the day. And obviously I'm not from the Brighton area, but I see the value in fans having local products come through. Like, they are the pride of the town. And for us to have him is just like, cherish that. Absolutely cherish that. Obviously, he's not the first to do it. He won't be the last. Now we've got Harry Howe that's come through the academy as well. Words can't really describe just how effing good this guy is. And to see him come through and not just be in the first team, but be as important as he is as well. Yeah, it's unreal.
Yeah, exactly that. Curtis, we'll talk about the 8 minutes that were added on, because for me, and I don't know about you, Andrew, but in the stadium, it felt like an absolute bloody eternity. That clock was not moving at 1 minute per minute. I'm sure of it. But at the end, I think we managed it pretty well in those 8 minutes. But at the end, Purvis Stupinian decides not to take the ball to the corner, and decides to have a shot across goal. Cue absolute anger from Fabian Hurzeler, who, again, I said earlier in the show, has been speaking so much about game management towards the end. Was you as animated as Fabian was?
Well, I think it's clever what he did, because I think he thought, if I take the shot now, it will make it to the Tottenham Stadium for next week. So, quite clever from him, really. But no, he had a bit of a frustrating performance at times yesterday. But I like Purvis a lot. I know I'm willing to give him a lot of slack, but he needs to be better with some of his decision making, I think, at times. But yeah, he was a little frustrating yesterday, and I don't blame Hurzeler for being angry, because the position he was in, he could have got that into the box for someone, and we could have maybe had another chance for maybe another goal, So, as I said, just decision making wasn't on his side yesterday, really.
No, exactly that. Andrew, I really felt like we were going to score a fourth. That sort of energy that was pulling the ball towards the goal, it just really seemed like, I don't know, probably from about the 4th minute of added time, that we were going to either cling on or go and finish the business. Did you think the same?
I thought we were slightly clinging on for a little while, but they still had that ambition in them to go for goal. And yeah, come on. sometimes I think there was a little bit of running out of steam in the last few minutes of the game. You know, I'm still not sure whether that referee actually played that full 8 minutes. I'm wondering whether he's kind of cut it short a little bit because it didn't quite seem long enough. But from our point of view, it was it was quite. We kept it as much as, you know. At the end of the day, Liverpool were going to try and come back, and they were going to try and get an equaliser, but we did so well to stop them from doing that, you know. And Salah had the miss of the century, and you know, it played directly into our hands. The only thing that's really annoyed me is that the critics and what I've heard from radio and stuff like that basically have said that, well, Liverpool did have their second-rate team out, so what do you expect? And it's like, hang on a minute. It doesn't matter whether they've got their first team out, whether they've got their second-rate team out. At the end of the day, they've been beaten on the South Coast by a very good Brighton side that is going for something really, really precious if we can get it. So, you know, and even the Liverpool manager turned around and said both teams were really, really good. Really good. So
Yeah. Exactly that.
And
And
was
Dagan,
going to point to Slot's
Yeah.
comments. He, what he said was unreal. Two good teams playing against each other, wanting to play football, no time wasting, no diving. It was a joy to watch both teams try to play as they did. A great game of football. Unfortunately, not the result we wanted. And he goes on. He credits the work of Ayari as well and Mitoma. Thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, it's amazing when somebody that's won the Premier League gives your team that much sort of credit. And I thought what was really nice as well, I don't know, Andrew, when the Liverpool team were coming out for the second half and they'd done their stupid little warm-up that they did. It looked like some ritualistic dance. But they were late out for the second half as well. And something I really respected was Konate came to the North Stand and held his hands up and apologized. So I thought that was, it's just a game full of respect for the game, as you say, Phil. So it was really nice to see. Dagan, I want to sort of come to you and speak about this season as a whole, really, because with results elsewhere at the moment, with Man City winning, if that stays the same, we would have confirmed a top 9 finish for sure before balls kicked on Sunday. So incredible achievement, really, when you think about the injuries, the new manager, young players. So talk to us a little bit about why Brighton fans should be looking ahead to next season.
Well, I mean, because we've done good business over and over and over again, and when we lose some players, which it appears we might lose some, we are replacing them. And I think, you know, I'm waiting till the end of the season to publish this article that'll talk specifically about the replacement of Caicedo and McAllister, and that's something we're still trying to make up for. And, you know, our best form is with the two of them in the lineup, and we're still trying to replicate that. But what we've done in the back half of this season with a healthier group and seeing more of our new players bedded into the team and getting more minutes, we are regaining a little bit of that form. We had a rough patch, but we've had 2 pretty nice patches over the second half of the season. And I think there's a lot to be optimistic about. And again, the overall trend lines of this club, it's upward, right? We took a little dip last year with the European season, but we were 9th in 21-22, 6th. Sort of had this fall that was rare amongst the Tony Bloom era. We've only had one fall like this before. And in that season, then we had a big jump. And again, here we're having, you know, another jump up from 11th, whether it'll be 9th, whether it'll be 8th. You know, it's a positive turn. And, you know, traditionally we go up a couple spots a year. So, you know, do we make another jump up to 7th or 6th next year? Maybe even a little better. We'll see. But I think there's a lot of room and reason to think that we could. What I would say is we really should stop saying that we should for a while, until our wage bill looks like a top 10 or a top 8 or a top 6 side, which we are way, way, way far off from. Leicester has a more expensive team than we do. So for everyone who says we should blank, 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 it's just not the case. You are viewing things through very blue-tinted glasses. This team has overachieved. Just because we consistently overachieve doesn't mean it's not still overachieving. We are still overachieving, and we've done it under a number of different managers with an incredible owner and great management from our front office. We don't get 100% of things right, but we do very well. I am very optimistic about the future, and hopefully City can keep this lead and a few things can go our way, and maybe we find our way into Europe. If everything goes our way on Sunday, we still have to wait to Wednesday for Chelsea to play in the Conference League final, and that will be an agonizing wait. But I hope we get.
And how disgusting is that, having to rely on bloody Chelsea to do something?
Well, we got to rely on them to lose. At least we have to rely on them to lose first, so we can root for them to lose this weekend and then balance it out, and hope they get their consolation prize and help us out in the process.
I love
Just
it.
to jump in, that season where we had Caicedo and McAllister, I think we finished with 62 points. And if we beat Tottenham's academy team on this weekend, we'll finish with 61 points.
But that's not good enough, Phil. It's not good enough.
That's what people aren't mentioning. I think it would still be our second best finish. This would be, and I think that needs to be mentioned. Yes, obviously we should have picked up more points here and there. There's definitely some draws that shouldn't have been draws. But I think, and the fact that we've only lost 9 times as well, which I think is pretty fantastic as well in the grand scheme of the whole league. I'm pretty proud, I mean, it's been a weird transitional season, what with young players, the young manager, which is mentioned every 5 minutes. I'm sorry, but it's just the facts. And I think
how old is he, Curtis?
I don't know, like 12, something, right? But I think the best is yet to come, and I think this next season is where we see, see things move forward.
Exactly that. Now I'm going to come to each and every one of you. We are going to do, just for the viewers, we are going to do a full season review a little bit later on with lots more stats. Dagan, I'm looking at you, and lots more sort of breaking down the season as it went. But I'm going to come to each co-host now and ask for your season rating. I know it's before Sunday, but season rating out of 10. So Andrew, I'll start with yourself. How have you rated this season?
Look, I've been pretty pleased with what I've seen so far. And despite the ups and the downs of this club and the way the season has performed, I'm going to give them an 8. I'm going to give them an 8 because I know that they are on the fringe of doing really, really good things going forward. And it's about improving. We're a young team, and all the time we improve, we have a very, very good chance of creating something going forward. So
love that. An 8 for Andrew. Curtis, what about you, my friend?
Great question, Joe. Thanks for coming. I'm probably gonna go for a thick vascular 7 for this season. I think it's been just a nice. It's been what I expected the season to be. I mean, at the beginning of the season, in discussions with my family and other friends, outside you, rabble, I was explaining that I expected a top 10 finish, and I would have been really happy with that. So everything for me has just gone on course with what I expected, and what I hoped. And obviously, the prospect of Europe is a plus. And if everything goes the way it goes, and that goes up to an 8. But 7.
A solid 7 for Curtis. Mr. Phil, what about you?
Well, I reckon a 10 would be winning the league. A 9 is finishing Champions League. An 8 seems about right, as Andrew's kind of gone with. Although my expectations were quite high. Asked Dagan, I did tip us to win the league. So add in one horrible result, it gets 7.5, regardless of what happens against Tottenham this weekend.
Love that. Mr. Dagan, what's he going to rate this season? Mr. Positive?
Yeah, I mean, I think you guys are all over it. I'm in that range. I'm trying to think about it, whether I'm on like a 10-point grading scale type situation, out of 100. And that makes me think like, an 8.0 would be like a B-. And that feels about right for me. So I think I'm in the 8 camp. Yeah, I mean, Phil, winning the league feels like an 11 rather than a 10. I feel like any Champions League performance is safely a 10. Like Europe to me is a 9. If we were in Europe, I would say it's at least a 9 out of 10. And I think if we sneak into Europe, it moves, in this backdoor fashion. Maybe does that undercut it a little bit in its conference league? If we get in, I would say it's at least an 8.5 if we backdoor our way into conference league. Yeah, because when we think back to 22-23, like what do we give that season? Is that a 9? Is that a 9.5?
That for me would have been a 9.5 out of 10 that season. So
yeah,
this year, I was gonna agree with a 7.5, but I don't think I can rate it that just because that lot did the double over us. So I'm not sure I can push it to a higher rating. So for me, it's a 7. Rodders is asking, why are people rating the season? Wait till the end. We're only 90 minutes away from the end of the season. Give us a break. So yeah, for me, it's a 7. Which
because you should never judge one season off one game. That's why it doesn't really matter what happens.
No, exactly. Exactly. That's true. But yeah, for me, it's a 7 out of 10. And yeah, as people have been saying, as you would allude to, Dagan, there's so much room for improvement there. And this football club has an upward trajectory, and we should all be very, very excited. Dagan, are you reacting to something in the game? What's going on?
It was what looked to be a promising through ball, but Bournemouth held Holland up well. Still 2-0, which I'll take.
What are we on? 60 minutes now? Roughly?
Really, all we need here is a City draw. We don't even need a City win from this game. A City draw is enough, because the key is Chelsea losing to Forest. And even if City just gets one more point the rest of the way, they're going to finish ahead of Chelsea if they lose, unless they lose to Fulham by like 5. So even a draw today eliminates Bournemouth from catching us, and then keeps City above Chelsea if Chelsea loses the last game. And we need Chelsea to lose the last game. Well, not their last game, really last game.
The stars are beginning to align.
This may well have been discussed already, so I apologize if it has. But retrospectively, I think if we did qualify for Conference League, it might be the perfect outcome for where this group is at. They need some experience. Europa seems like a bridge too far. If we can reflect back last season for where the group was at, it's still the second youngest group in the Premier League. They need time on the ground, and we've got a big squad as well. We've got lots of players that deserve minutes. If we snuck into Conference League and actually competed in that comp next season, that feels like a perfect outcome for where this group is and its sort of profile and the development that it and the trajectory that it needs to go on.
Yeah, I think you're pretty spot on there, Phil. So yeah, and who wouldn't want a trip on a Thursday night to the deepest depths of Kazakhstan? Like that is romanticism at its very best. Sorry, go on, Dagan.
Just a point though, we do a little bit have to throw out everything that we learned in Europe, not about the fixture congestion, but the quality of the opponents. because the new Champions League format expanded to 36 teams. So that weakens Europa League. And then teams aren't dropping down out of the Champions League this year. And so the Europa League quality, when we were in it, changed dramatically once the Champions League teams dropped down. But that didn't happen this year. And so that's why you're looking at United and Spurs in a Europa League final. I don't think they're in that final last year with the field that we competed with, but this year they are. So that's a big difference that I think is like changes the caliber of Europa League. So I think we would be more ready for Europa League now than we were with the old format. So just a slight counterpoint there.
I swear.
I agree with your premise, Phil, that Conference League will be great for us from a squad building perspective and giving all of our guys plenty of minutes. Because Europa League would still be such that would be tough.
It would be an absolute travesty if Manchester United win 2 trophies in this little era of whatever the hell they've been. My goodness.
I had a conversation with Carabao Cup as well.
Oh, yeah, true.
I had a conversation with a Manchester United fan at the weekend, and he was trying to explain to me that he knows the pains of football. And he was like, this is the lowest of the low. I can't, my weekend isn't ruined by my club anymore because I know that they're terrible now. And I'm like, hold on a minute. That is privileged pain. You have won a Carabao Cup and an FA Cup last season. So
and they're like a multi-million pound circus tent put up in Manchester because I can't stand it. I mean, like I said,
struggle is real.
You have teams like Reading and Morecambe and stuff who like struggle to exist, and then you've got Manchester United fans going, "Oh, we're in 13th. This is terrible, but we're in a cup final." I can't stand it. I cannot stand it.
What I really wish is that the 3 teams that got promoted weren't as bad as what they have been, because United and Spurs could very well have crumbled under the pressure from behind them. And I don't think they would have got to as many points as they have done because there hasn't been any pressure from below. So that could have been a really interesting concept for United and Spurs going down to the Championship. It would have been beautiful to watch. Enough about them, more about us. Very quickly before we sign off for the show, Curtis, your player of the match, please.
The fans. No, it would probably be. I'm going to give it to Gruder. I thought he really, really impressed me yesterday. Another really good showing for him. Just another exciting prospect for us, and I look forward to seeing more from him.
Exactly that. Andrew, can I get your player of the match, please?
Well, to be honest, I think overall the team played really, really well. They all played their part in winning that game. I think I'm going to go with Mitoma. I know he came off the bench, but he certainly showed why he should be starting. And I know sometimes you just have to kind of be on the bench just to kind of, to get the manager's attention. But we'll have to see what happens on Sunday. I'm really looking forward to that because I'm obviously going up there, so
well, enjoy the Spurs Stadium. It is it looks like a toilet bowl actually. So hopefully, what happens inside the pitch isn't reminiscent of what happens inside a toilet bowl. Anyway, enough about toilet bowls. More about the player of the match. Michael in the chat says Weefer, but good shouts for Gruder and Ayari. Phil, your player of the match, please.
Yeah, I'll give it to Ayari. I know I missed the part where you talked about his goal, but the finish was class. He had so many quality moments in that match as well, and put in a bit of a shift. We had some blokes go to deep waters throughout that match, but the fact that Ayari had those quality moments on the top of that was pretty impressive stuff. And I'm mixing it up a little bit as well because the other 2 players that have already been mentioned were outstanding as well.
Exactly that. Dagan, are we going to get your famous podium from player of the match?
You have to get a podium. I think I could go like another tier or 2 tiers down. We could have a just a massive, podium. We could have that's 6, 10. We got like a 10-man podium given the quality of the subs that came on. You can make a case that, Hinshelwood was a huge factor in the game coming on and scoring the winner. And he's not being talked about. I already scored the first goal, and it's tough to squeeze him in. Phil's got him there. Weaver didn't have a goal contribution yesterday, did he? But he was outstanding. For me, I think for the duration of the game, Gruda was the most exciting and electric player on the pitch. And so it's Gruda for me. The rest of the podium is Mitoma and Weaver. And it's really difficult for me to ever have a podium without Carlos Baleba, because I would say, despite all those standout performances, if you take him off the pitch, we're not in the game. We're not sniffing close to the game. And so it's hard for me not to just say he's the man of the match every time out, because he's such a difference maker. He's the one player that I feel like most hope doesn't leave this summer. I just don't think we have a ready-made replacement for him.
No, I agree. Someone that we haven't actually spoken much about today, which again, is further proof that there were more outstanding performances around the pitch.
This is probably a fitting example, like what he means and how it doesn't always show up on the stat sheet or the score sheet. I thought City had scored another goal because they were showing the crowd reacting. Do you know what they were reacting to? Rodri running on the side. Like, Baleba is that for us, right? It's that player that just makes us light years better. And City without Rodri this year, all the other players in and out of the lineup, nothing has impacted them the way that him being out of the lineup has. And I just think that anchor in the middle that breaks up play and can, distribute is just so valuable. And we're lucky to have a guy who, is growing into, I think, one of the best in the world at that spot.
Exactly. Ballon d'Or for Carlos Baleba is what Dagan is saying. I'm putting words in his mouth. But he's nodded. So Kovacic has just been sent off, apparently. So that's good. Let's hope Man City can hold on with 23 minutes left to play.
His price tag has to end up being above Caicedo's, right? When he does sell.
Oh my gosh, easily. 130 million, I reckon, is going to be the asking price. But again, we don't put values on players, and if people come with the right price, then hopefully, we don't see him go, but hopefully the money would be right for what we expect for such a incredible talent with such a high ceiling, like probably a higher ceiling than Caicedo. I don't want to take away from the player that Caicedo is, because I think we're kidding ourselves if we don't say that he's a fantastic player. Had a bad start with his time at Chelsea, but is now one of their most important. So, but yeah, enough about Caicedo. It's all about Baleba. For me, my player of the match would be Brian Gruder. I was so impressed by him scoring his first goal a week ago. And then obviously taking his chance yesterday brilliantly well. Finding space, driving the team up the pitch, linking play together. He just seems to be finding his feet in the Premier League. I think the end of the season probably is going to frustrate him because he's coming into really good form. We just hope that carries through into pre-season. He has a good break and then continues where he left off next season. I mean, it's going to be a crazy battle for that position if João Pedro stays. With Ruta, with O'Reilly, if he stays as well, it's going to be one heck of a headache for Hurzeler. And I do not envy him one bit. Maybe I envy his pay packet, but I don't envy having to make those decisions. I guess that just about rounds us off for the show. Is there anything else anybody wants to say before we sign off?
Yes, I just want to say thank you to everyone for joining us this evening, asking us questions, and we wouldn't be doing this if it wasn't for you guys. So thank you very much for the continued support. Exactly. We are going into our 5th season of the Albion Obsessed podcast next season, which is fantastic. It's been a great year for us. It's been so good to be doing these live shows pretty much every week and interacting with our listeners and viewers. I've had a lot of people come up to me at MX and say that they're really enjoying what we're doing. So I really do appreciate that.
Again, when I started this podcast with my friend Toby, I didn't expect to be, broadcasting to 1,200 people every week and having listeners from every a corner of the globe. So we really do appreciate it. And I also want to extend a big thank you to Curtis Friend, to Mr. Andrew Garfield, to Phil, and to Dagan, and to Tom, and to Chloe, and to who am I missing? Aaron Stevens, Dan Nutt, everybody that has contributed to this podcast over the year, and has what's made it so good to be on the waves, and just shooting the shit, as they say, shooting the shit. But sorry, go on, Andrew.
I think it's incredibly important that as fans we have the opportunity to come on to things like this and be able to discuss our club in what it's doing, in the amazing times that we are at the moment, and the, and what's happened before and stuff like that. And I think this wouldn't be possible if this wasn't available. So, it will continue. We'll make it continue. You're the owner of it, and it will certainly be there. And next season we'll do it all again. I know the season hasn't quite ended yet, but we'll love it, and that's why we do it.
Yeah, I also want to say that just quickly, Joseph. Sorry, I do want to say that I feel like there's this misconception that you need to know what you're talking about to do these sorts of things, and I have no bloody idea what I'm talking about most of the time. I came into this not knowing anything really, just surface level football stuff, and it's been a ride. So we applaud anyone to if anyone ever wants to come on in the future, just shoot your shot, and we'd love to have you on to discuss it. Even if it doesn't matter your skill level or how much you may feel about football or whatever. We just we like having good, honest conversations with people about the game. So
exactly, something I've always said that I don't want Albion Obsessed to be is a closed shop. I want this to be the podcast by the fans for the fans. So if you do want to talk all things Brighton of Albion on the screen with us, people that, again, as Curtis said, have no idea what they're talking about really, except for Dagan and maybe Phil, then
no. It's Dagan and the others.
I love you maybe Phil, maybe
I love how I get grouped into Dagan's level just because I'm also on the other side of the world, but I can.
Because I've been for 3 years. I feel like I'm getting way too much credit here. I am still learning.
All right, okay, you're all crap. There'll be a podcast next year. I'm joking. Bournemouth red card as well, apparently. Just before we sign off, right. What I want to say as well is that we do have more Albion-related content coming at you before the end of the season and beyond. We're looking to do more pre-season content, aren't we, Curtis? And we are also looking to do our coveted Albies Awards as well, which I know the players are really looking forward to. We will be sending the awards to them first class, signed for in the post, so they can go on their mantelpiece. We will have
for the Albies. There'll be a £62 ticketed event if you want to join for that at the Terrace.
Exactly that. But we will obviously be coming to you with our full match reaction after the final game of the season at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. I, for one, hope that Tottenham win the Europa League so they're on the piss and we can just roll them over with no problem.
Aussie.
Oi, oi, oi. Anyway, on that note, let's sign off for this week. If you could be so kind, if you could like, share, and subscribe to the Albion Obsessed podcast, we will bring you as much content as we possibly can until our fingers are no more. So, have a good one, and wherever you may be, whenever you may be, see you next time. Bye-bye.